Hey everyone, Mr. Voikin here, and we're just going to take a look at this three-dimensional drawing that is in SketchUp, and we're going to use some of the features of this application to pull off the dimensions, and then we're going to create a orthographic drawing in third angle projection with a front view, right side view, and a top view. Alright, so with this drawing here, we're going to want to pull off some dimensions so that we can create the orthographic drawings in the front view, right side view, and top view. So we're going to use a few of the tools that are available within this application, and they're over on the left hand side. If I click on the tape, you can see there's a measuring tape, a dimension tool, and a protractor. So we'll be using those three. And over on the left hand side we have some windows that we're going to want to open up and change some of the settings. So go to the model info on the right hand side, open that up, and we want to make sure that you are on millimeters and 2 decimal point precision, and on the text we want to just increase the size of the text from 12 to 24 so it's a little bit easier to see. Two up from that, you can see there's what we call scenes, and if I click on that, it's going to open up the scenes, and there are two different ways to view it. One is in perspective and the other one is in parallel projection, and these are the different views. So if I go to the front view but I'm in perspective, you can see that it's not a true front view. I need to click on parallel projection in order to get a true front view. And over here will be my right side view, and all these lines that we see are the object lines, but if I want to see any of the hidden lines, I just press the K button, and that will display the object lines and the hidden lines. And you can see in the top view that there are also some object lines and hidden lines that we're going to need to draw. So I will go to the front view, and I'm going to press down on the mouse wheel. You can also press O for orbit, and I'm just going to spin this a little bit. I'm going to turn the hidden lines off for now, and I'm going to get a piece of paper or my iPad, and I'm going to go to my tape tool, and I'm going to go to the bottom left, click on the corner, and swing all the way to the other side, and you can see that that has a total width of 80. And now to get out of the tape tool, I can just press spacebar. That's my selection tool, and there's my iPad. Here is our front view, which is just going to be the footprint for right now, and it has a width of 80. So what about the height of that front view? Well, I'm going to do it a different way. I could use the tape tool, but I can also just click on this line right here, and that will allow me to go over to the right hand side into the entity info window, and you can see right there it tells me it has a length of 65. So go back to my drawing and write down it has a height of 65. Now for my top view, it's going to have the same width but a different depth, and for my right side view it will have the same height but the width of that will be the same as the depth on the top view, as we'll be taking a projection line up and over to that point. Okay, so let's go back to our drawing, and I'll do a third method of pulling dimensions off here, which is I'll select my dimension tool, and now I can just click on that corner and this far corner, and I can pull off that dimension, so you can see that it has a dimension of 50 millimeters. So if I go back to my drawing, I can now indicate that that is going to be 50, and that means that one will be 50 as well. Okay, so now that we have those dimensions, I will head into AutoCAD and begin setting up all the construction lines and the projection lines to create this orthographic projection drawing. Alright, so I've opened up my engineering drawing template, and I'm going to turn the grid off because I don't like drawing with the grid. I'm going to switch over to my construction layer, and we'll start creating the construction lines using the ray command. So R-A-Y is for array, hit enter. The first point I'm just going to start at 20, 20, just up and to the right of the USC symbol right there, and I want to make sure that line goes perfectly horizontal at 0 degrees to the right and straight up at 90 degrees. Okay, now when I look at my drawing right here, I can see that the width of the front view is at 80 units, and then I've got a space, and then the width of the right view is going to be 50. And as a standard rule, you can sort of take about 2/3 of, or 3/4 around there of that dimension for your space. It usually works out pretty good. So I'm going to go like 80, 50, and 50, and that should be able to get me 80 offset to here, another 50 to get this line, and another 50 to get that one. Okay, so I'm going to use the offset command, so O, enter, input the distance of 80, and I want to click there and move over 80, right click out, right click in, 50, enter, and I'll go 1 and 2. Okay, now going back to my drawing, I can see that the height of the front view is 65, so I need that. And again, with the offset command, with a distance of 65, I will move that up. Now, what I want to do is go back into the ray command and go to the top right-hand corner of your front view and create a line going up and to the right at 45 degrees. Now, wherever this line and this line, or any line that's moving up, intersects with that projection line, we can then create a line going to the left, which will create the proper distance and allow us to create all our objects. So I'm going to go back into the ray command and go to the left and over to the left. And now those are my 3 views, and I'm going to switch over to the object layer, and I'll just turn on my line weight so we can see it a little bit better, and I'll use the rectangle command, REC, and I'm going to make the front view, the right side view, and the top view footprints. Okay, well, now that I've got my footprints done for the 3 views, I'm going to use the tape measuring tool, the dimensioning tool, and the entity info window to pull off the rest of my dimensions. So I like doing that by putting it into sort of an isometric view here, going to my tape tool, and now I can just start pulling off specific dimensions and indicating those on my drawing. Okay, now I'm just going to show you how to find the center of the circle and the radius or diameter of the circle. So one, if you right click on the circle, there's a option to find the center, and it puts a little center point there. Then you can just go to the tape tool, click on the center point, and go straight down. You can see that it's 10 down, and it's going to be 15 over. And if I do the same thing to the other circle, find the center and go back to my tape tool, I can now go from one circle to the next, and I can see that it's going to be up 15 between each one. We can't assume that the other one is going to be 15, although it probably is, but I'm going to go to find center again and just go up there and double check and confirm that it is that. Now to find out the radius, if we just click on it and look over at the entity info, you can see it says it's got a radius of 5. So does that one, and it is symmetrical, so it's going to be the same on the other side. You could also go to the dimensioning tool, And if you click on the circle, it's going to be able to pull that diameter of 10 off there for you like that. Okay, so what you want to do is just sort of spin around your drawing, use those features of the application, and create a little bit more of a detailed design that is going to have some numbers on there. And you just want to do this really quickly and just make sure the numbers are accurate so that you have something to look at while you're drawing. It's better to do it all at once rather than one by one while you're in the AutoCAD function. Now, I always just go to, again, to this parallel projection and take a look at what the front view should look like right there. Come on. And so I can compare that with my drawing right here. So there's my front view, and there's my right side view, which again looks like what I have right there. If I just move that over, you can compare that. And finally, the top view right there. And again, if we take a look and compare it to the drawing I made, it looks good. Okay, so next thing we got to do is just go create the rest of those details in AutoCAD. All right, so we're going to use the offset command, which is O, and we're going to offset all these construction lines, the distance that we've got indicated on our drawing that we made. So all of these measurements right here, I'm just going to create construction lines that will go between all of these views. So I'm going to keep this drawing in front of me. I'm on the construction layer, offset, and the first one is going to be offset over at 15. And this one will come over 15 to the right, and that will go to the left. Right click out and right click back in. It's a little bit quicker. It's going to be 30 this time, so that one's going to go over 30, and this one will also go over 30. Now I've got some other details where this one's going to come down 8 right here, and this bottom one's going to go up 4, and then this one is also going to go in 4 in this direction and this direction, and this other one is going to come down 9 from there to there. Okay, so now that it's starting to get a little bit complex and confusing, so I'm going to switch back over to my object layer, and I'm going to start to fill some of this in using the line command. So I can see that this is a object line coming straight down. This object line is coming straight down right there. This one will have a notch taken out in that corner, and same with this one. And I can use the rectangle command to fill this spot in right there. And that's looking good at this point, so we can go back into our creating a few more of our construction lines, and I'll create the center points for the circles. So I've already got this line right here and here, which is our center point right there, but I need the dimensions going up. So offset 10 to begin with. That one's going to go up 10, and then that one's going to go up 15, and that one will go up 15, creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 center points. So on the object layer, create a circle with a radius of 5. Now I could create a bunch of other circles using the same circle command, or I could even go to copy and copy it, grab it at the center point, and just place a total of 6 circles on there for us. So that looks good. There's our our front view. Now I need to go back into my offset and create a couple more of the offsets for these two lines right here, which is offset at 10. So I'm just going to go offset 10, you're going to go up, and you're going to go down. And again, I'll go back into my line command in the object layer, and I will begin to draw this object like so. Okay, and you can see that once we have all these construction lines there, it just becomes really easy to draw this out. I don't really have to keep typing in all these dimensions. And that's it. That's the top view done. Now this line right here, which is one of our construction lines, it needs to make contact to go to or past this projection 45-degree line right here. So I'm just going to hover over top of this, and I'm going to extend that out a little bit. And now wherever these cross right here, they can be projected down. So I'm just going to go back to my construction layer, and I'm going to choose a ray, and down, and this one goes down right there. And at that point, now I have enough information to create all the object lines on my right side view. So we need to switch over to the object layer first. Line, this one's going to come straight down. This one's going to come straight down. And this one right there is going to go over. And that is my right side view. So, and that should look very similar to what I have on my SketchUp. So I'm going to open that up. Again, go to parallel projection, look at my front view. This time I'm going to turn on my hidden lines. And if you notice that there are no hidden lines on the front view, but when I go to the right side view, I do have these two, one at the bottom and one at the top, that go all the way through. So I'll go back into AutoCAD, and I can see there it is right there, and this one right there. So I'm going to switch over to my hidden layer, and I'm actually going to open my layers really quickly and just see what the line weight I have. So I'm going to change that just temporarily. You can always change it back. I'm going to change it to 35 on the hidden line and center line as well. I want to change to 0.35. That's just going to allow me to see the line a little bit easier. Put that back over, and I'm in the hidden layer, so I just go L, enter, and draw that line straight across right there, and this line straight across right there. We'll go back to our drawing in SketchUp, and we can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other hidden lines on the inner portion of that object. So we're going to open that up, and 1, 2, 3, well, it's not those ones. Those are the center lines of those circles. So we have to come off of these circles right here. So what I'm going to do is go back to my construction layer. I'm going to choose a ray, so R-A-Y, and what we have to do is come off of these circles. So at the top, that's called the top quadrant. Go over, and I need to do that for all 3 of these. That didn't work. No, did it? Go back into the ray and just go to the bottom quadrant and go over. Okay, and we also need to do it off of the side of it, going up, to create the hidden lines that will be in the top view. Okay, and now I just need to make sure that I select the right line. So there's this one, ooh, that's not that one, it's this one, and 3, 4, 5, 6. So those 6 right there need to be hidden lines. So I'll go back into my hidden line layer. Oops. and I'm going to draw those out. So L, enter, and it's going to be this one, and this one, this one. I think I remember saying there was 5, but now I see there are 6. Makes sense. So total, I've got 8 hidden lines, these 2 going all the way through, and these shorter ones right there. So I'm just going to go back to my drawing, just double check that. So there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them right there. Let's just go to the top view, and you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hidden lines right there. Let's go back into AutoCAD, go to my top view, and it'll be the hidden line showing that hole that's going all the way through. So again, with the hidden layer, I'm going to go to a line. It's going to be this one going through, and this one going through, that one. Now it should just be between here and here because there's going to be some trimming going on there. Right there and right there. And since I know I do have to do some trimming, I might as well do that right now. It's easier to turn the construction lines off right now. So just go in here and say hide, and now I can use my trim function to get rid of that. Okay, and there we go. We've got our, oh, there's a little bit more right here and here. Okay, and there we go. We have our front view, right side view, and top view. Okay, so the next thing we need to move on to is putting in our center lines and center marks. But before I do that, I'm just going to confirm that my front view is looking exactly like the front view in SketchUp and AutoCAD, which it is. Go to the right side view, that looks good. Go to the top view, that looks good. We are ready to move on to center marks. So the center marks and center lines are going to be on the center layer. And over on the left hand side, you can see there is a command right here. If I hold the left mouse button down, it gives me the option to choose either center mark or center line. You should also be able to type that in. So if I type center line, there's the command right there. And now what I'm going to do is wherever there is a circle going all the way through, I want to put center lines between the 2 hidden lines. So I need a center line between these 2 right there. And I do need a center line between these 2, but if we look right here, I'm just going to back into that command. So back into the center line. If I try to put one there, notice that it's right at the same point as the object lines, and the object lines are always going to be the ones that we want to view first. So if we have an object line and a hidden line in the same spot, we show the object line, not the hidden line. So I don't want to put that one on right there. Now over on the other side, I've got 3 of them right here. So I can go 1 right there, go back into the command, and there's going to be 1 between here and here, and 1 between here and here. Okay, so there's our center lines. Oops, for some reason that one disappeared. Bring it back. Okay, and now we're going to go put in our center mark, and the center marks are put on each one of these circles. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, next thing I need to do is I need to sort of change the length of the tails that are on these, so how far it's extending past, and also change the line type scale so that it actually looks like hidden lines and whatnot. So a hidden line should look like consistent dash. So what I'm going to do is go into the layers up top. I'm going to turn off my object, turn off my center lines, and now I can just quickly select all the hidden lines, and I'm going to go into the line type scale and just type in like 5, and I'll take a look at that. It's getting a little bit better, so I'll try 10. Not too bad. Let's try 15 or 20. We'll say 20, see how that looks. A little bit too much, so we'll do it one last time at 15. Beauty. Okay, so now I can go back into here, and I'm going to turn off my hidden lines, turn on my center lines and my object lines right here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to select these 4, which are the center lines, and do the same thing. I just want to go right here, and I'd probably start by selecting 15, and that looks good. Now you've got a long dash followed by a short dash, long dash followed by a short dash. So let's now take a look at the center marks. Now the problem with the center marks right now is we've got some overlap. So that one is overlapping with that one, which means these extensions are going too far. So if I click on these 3 right here and these 3 right here, I'm just going to look over in the right hand side, and it says the extension is 3.5. So I'm just going to change that to 2 and see how that does. So we'll take a look at it now. Okay, that looks great. I got a slightly little space between there, and now we're just going to change the line type scale to 15 as well. And now you can see when I change that to 15, I should be getting that same line type where I see one dash, which is long, followed by a shorter dash. So that was a little bit too much, so maybe I'll go to 5, and there we go. That looks a lot better. So you can see I've got the short dashes and the long dashes, and I'm extending past there. Just gonna try one more, trying at say 3. Yeah, I like that better. I like it better because this one top line goes right through there, and the small dash is not right up against that object line. So that looks a little bit better. So those are looking really good. Just change those really quick. I'm gonna try 10. Yeah, let's do that. It looks a little bit more consistent with the other ones that are there. Okay, now those are actually going to be changed later when we go into the layout and we go to print it out, because we're going to want to rescale those depending on what size of paper that we're going to be putting that onto. Okay, so now that this is done, let's switch over to our layout. So I'm going to click on A3 right here, and notice that I do not have a title block in here. So I need to do that. So I've got another drawing opened up, which is a title block that I made, and we're going to create this as a block, or save this as a block. And to do that, you want to type W, enter. It's going to open up the right block window. You would choose select objects and select the entire object. Right click to go back into the window and pick a point. I usually choose the bottom left, but the top left, top right, or bottom right would be good as well. The next thing we want to do is write it, and now we just want to choose where we're going to save it to. So you should have somewhere where you're going to save it, and you want to give it a proper name. This is an A3 title block. And there we go, save, and now it is a block drawing. If you look over on the right hand side, you've sort of got our layers, and then we've got the reference manager, and beside that we have the blocks. And if you don't have that up there, just go here to window and make sure that that blocks one is turned on right there. Usually we keep it in the properties inspector tab, but you have the option to switch it. So what I'm going to do is go to the blocks, and I'm just going to double click on this and drag it in. Actually, before I do that, you can see that my view viewport right here, the viewport window, I want to make sure it's on the correct layer. So depending on how you got what you set it up with, may be on the wrong layer. So you just want to select that and switch to the view layer. And for now, I would just pull it into the middle like this. And now let's go and double click insert, and I want to put it as close as I can to the corner of that paper, which is right there. Good enough. Now it's going to ask you to input some information. Just say cancel. We don't want to do that yet. So here is our piece of paper, and now I'm going to click on my viewport, and I'm going to stretch it really close to the top left corner and really close down to the bottom right corner. Okay, and now I need to scale this drawing that's in there, so I'm going to double click on the inside. I'm going to that allows me to move my drawing around and scale it. So I'm just zooming in right now, and that's about the size that we want right there. So but you can see at the bottom it says 1.22, bottom right corner. It says the scale right now is magnified at a scale of 1.22. So we want to have a little bit of space up top between the drawings, to the left, to the bottom, and to the right hand side. But we don't want to just use a random zoomed scale. We want to click on the scale list, and then we want to choose one that's going to work. So you can see that 2 to 3 made that a little bit too small. 1 to 1 is not too bad. If I go here to 2 to 1, that's going to be too big. And if I go here to 3 to 2, that's still a little bit too big. Right now, the one that works for us is going to be this, which one was it? 1 to 1? 1 to 1 right there. Okay, so we have our drawing set at 1 to 1. And now I want to go to the bottom and click on this button, which is going to get me out of the model space of the layout and onto the paper. Okay, and there is our setup, and we're ready now to start making dimensions. Okay, now I made a couple changes right here. So I didn't like the size. It was just a little bit too small at 1 to 1. So I went back into the model of the layout and went to my scale list. And what I did was I added a scale. So at the bottom says edit scale list. I went in there and I clicked on this one right here, which is 1 to 500. And I added this one that should say 524, but I somehow typed in the wrong thing, so I'll just say edit it really quickly. It should be 5 to 4. There we go, and then I just selected the 5 to 4 option right there and centered my drawing. And now notice that the circles don't look like circles anymore, and you can fix that just by typing regen all, and it takes it back to a proper object shape. So here we go, we're out of there. Now let's go back to our layers and properties inspector and start making dimensions. Okay everyone, so we're going to start dimensioning and annotating this drawing, and this is probably one of the most important steps. So we want to make sure that we're in the layout, so not in the model. We don't want to do any of the dimensioning or the annotations in model space at this point. We want to go over to our paper layouts, and remember that paper layout has 2 modes. One is going to be model space, and notice that when I double click on the inside of the viewport that we can see the UCS symbol here, and the viewport becomes bolded. And if I was to zoom in and out, you can see my drawing zooms in and out, and if I pan, it's my drawing that pans. And to exit out of the model mode, I can double click in this gray area, and now I'm in the paper mode, and the paper moves in and out or pans around like that. Now, if I was to zoom in really close and double click, I'm now again in the model mode. and there's no gray area to click on anymore to exit out of the model mode. But down in the status bar in the bottom right, there is this button that says toggle viewport between model space and paper space. So I want to click on that, and again I'm back on my paper. Now I've messed up my scale and my positioning of my drawing, so I can go back down into my status bar, toggle that button. So I go back into the model space, select my scale 5:4, pan it over until it's properly centered, and go back into my paper space. Okay, now go over to your properties inspector, change the layer to dimension, and then swing all the way over to the other side. In the tool sets, there's a section called dimension, and it's this one right here. Now if you have this view, a skinnier view, there's just up at the top there's like a double arrow, and if you click on that it opens it up a little bit, and that way you'll have the same view that I have. So this third little button right here, if I press and hold, it gives me 8 different selections, and the one we'll use the most is going to be dimension linear. Now I'm going to just zoom into this area a little bit, and I want to click on the end point of the line and the end point of the line, and I want to pull down, and you can see I can go just in the horizontal direction. Sometimes it'll allow you to go in another direction, but you can actually just type H, enter, and that will lock it into only going horizontal, and then 10, enter, and that should set it up so it is 10 millimeters from the outermost part of the drawing. So if I go check that from the end of the arrow tip back to here, you can see is 10 millimeters. Okay, so I'm going to go back and select the dimension again, and I want to go from here to here. Now I don't know how far down this is. It's not 10 because I came from this point right here last. So I can come over and just use my endpoint function to line those two up. But notice that right here I've got a gap between the extension line and my object line, and a gap over here between the extension line and the object line, and this one is overlapping. The extension line is overlapping the object line. That's not what I want, and that's because I took my measurements from this back point right here. So I'm going to delete that one and do it properly. So we're going to go from that point, and then we'll angle down to the outermost point that's in line with that one right here, and now I can pull that down to that point. And we'll do the same on the other side. And now we have 3 dimensions that are chained, or they're going in one line. Okay, so we got 30, 20, and 60 for a total of 80. So now if I get my full dimension from this point to the outermost point there, I come down and I can see that it is reading at 80. But I want to get consistent spacing going here again, so I can go with 10 or 8 millimeters from the last dimension. So the first one is always 10 away. The second one can be 10 or 8. So it depends on how complex the drawing is and how much space you have. So going with the 8 is going to save you a little bit of space. So I'm going to go with that. And the problem is I want to come from that point down 8. So when I say that, it's the English that you want to listen to. I'm coming from this point down this direction. So I'm actually just going to type in from, and where, this point, and which direction, down, and then type in 8 and enter, and that will set that point at 8 millimeters from the last dimension. Now with drawings, one of the things is we don't want to over dimension by adding too much. So because there's only 3 chained dimensions right here, and they're very simple numbers, the person that's doing the drawing, if I eliminated that dimension, would would understand that that is going to be 30 just by going 80 minus 30 minus 20, giving that dimension right there. Okay, so now on the other side here, we're going to go make a couple dimensions again. So I'm going to choose my linear, come from this point and this point. This time I want to go in a vertical direction, so I can type V, enter. And where I'm getting that V from is if I, well, let me do this again. Click there and there, and you can see there's this drop down list that shows up right there. If I press that, it's telling me I can do a bunch of different things here. So I'm going to choose V for vertical, and again that only allows me to go in the vertical direction, and I'm going to go out 10. Okay, now sometimes it does this, it doesn't look like it went out 10, and I would just double check that, and it didn't go out 10, it only went out 5.2. So there's a couple, that first one you want to make sure it's set properly. So there's a couple things that I can do. One, I can just create a line from here to here going out 10, and then I can actually move this dimension. So move this dimension from that point to the end right there, and then I would just delete that sort of line that I made. But you can see that it sort of messes up this gap right here, but when I click on it, it gives me these little dots that I can pull back. Okay, I'm going to try it one more time just to sort of see why it did that. So linear from here to here, vertical, and out that direction 10, and that looks better. Just double check from here to here is 10. So I'm not sure why it does that sometimes, but you should be able to see if it looks proportional. Okay, now I've got this one right here. I could either choose to do this one, and again, you see how it tried to go down like this. If I just go V, enter, it's going to force it into a vertical direction. Or I could do this one. Okay, and now you can see we have another problem here again. So just be aware. You can see that they happen once in a while. Now this one right here is definitely lined up with my corner. It's giving me 10, and I know that dimension is 10, but this one turned out to be 9.3, and you can see that it's being taken from this point right there, not the end point. So we only want to go from end points. So it probably has something to do with my object snap settings. So I'm going to go down into my object snap in the status bar and just make sure that I've only got sort of the points that I want right now, which are usually perpendicular and end point. So things like midpoint, I can get rid of them right now. But the main culprit is this one nearest, and it's not even on right now. So I'm not even sure why that turned out to be 9.3. But again, you just got to keep an eye on what's happening, and if something doesn't look right, you just want to grab it again. So I'm for sure on the end point, and I can move out to this spot that's 10, click, and done. Now again, I can go get an overall dimension from here to here, which should be 50. And again, if we're going to follow the same setup that we did down here, it was 8 millimeters down. So what do I use again? The from command. So FROM, and from that point going in that direction 8, and there it gets set. And at this point I can eliminate either this 10 or this 10. So if it's myself right now, we've already got this overlapped line right here. So by eliminating this one, I'm not going to delete that, and we're going to end up using this line right here. This center line is a line of symmetry. So I'm going to delete this top one. Okay, and that looks pretty good for the top. Now, over on the other side, you just have to sort of make sure that, so I can see that this one's 30 between here and here, and this one's 20, and the total's 80, so this one has to be 30. On the other side, it appears to be the same. It looks like this line lines up with that line, but it could be off by a millimeter. You know, who knows what the specifications of the drawing are, so we can't assume that. So what we need to do is create a line of symmetry. Okay, so like I said, I could go through and dimension all these parts, but it's really going to just clutter the drawing with unnecessary dimensions. So we're going to, like I said, create a line of symmetry. Now we can use this one right here, which happens to be the center line for this hole, but that is also the axis of symmetry for the entire part. But it's also symmetrical this way. So I don't have a line of symmetry going across here, and we need those. So we're going to go back to the model space, and we're going to create another line along here using the center line. So I'll switch over to center line, and I'm going to go choose this one right here, which is either center mark or center line. I'll choose center line, and I'll go between here and here. It makes the center line, but I'm going to need to click on it and grab that square and drag it all the way down to that point. So I get a line of symmetry going all the way through the part. And then because we've got two lines of symmetry, I'm just going to create a small little circle here with a radius of 1.5. Okay, and now I've got my two lines of symmetry right here. But what differentiates them from a center line? At this point, nothing. I'm just going to set this scale the same. Now I'm probably going to have to change the scale because it's not showing up properly in here anyways. So now would be a good time to do that. So notice that this one right here is showing up with the dashed and dotted line, but it's way too small, and this one right here is just way too big. So I'm going to go back into my model space, and if I look at this one, it's got a line type scale of 5, and this one has a line type scale of 1. So I'm just going to play around with this one. We'll try halfway in between, so 2.5. And now I want to just go back into my drawing and see what that looks like. Not too bad. I'll just go change that one more time. Try 3. Okay, and go back into my drawing. A little bit better. Surprised that 5 made such a big line when it's over there. So 5 is definitely going to be too much. So we'll try 4. Take a look at it again. I like that a little bit better. Okay, go back to my model space. This is going to be a 4. Make it the same. Okay, and now I'm just going to go and double check that I make all of them the same. So as long as you're staying consistent with them, that's sort of what matters. And these ones right here, they're different, but I'll try it at 4, see what it looks like. Yeah, it looks all right there. Sometimes you have to make the center marks slightly different than the center lines, just depending on the way it looks in your layout again. So I'll go take a look at these center marks. They're looking good. That's looking good. Everything's looking good. Okay, now, like I said, how do I know this is a center line for a part, or a line of, a center line for the whole, or a line of symmetry for the part? Well, I'm going to go back into my model space, and I'm going to add some little dashes to this. So 2 little lines, and that's going to indicate that it's a line of symmetry. So go into my line, and I'm going to go from that point, I'm just going to go up sorry, do that again. Line, enter. I'm going to use the from command again. From where? From the endpoint, and I'm going to come up in this direction. I'm going to go 1. And you can see it's starting to make a line 1 millimeter up from the bottom, and I'm going to make that 1.5 millimeters long. And I want to do it off the outside, on the other side of this symmetry line as well, but I don't want to just draw another line, so I'm just going to click on it, grab that blue dot, and pull, and just say stretch it out 1.5 as well. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to copy this line, or I could do that again, but copying is easier. So CO, what do you want to copy? That. Where do you want to grab it? Here, and I want to move up, and I'm going to move up 1.5. Okay, and at this point, the problem with these two lines right here is that I don't need them to be dashed. They should be a continuous line type, so I'm going to select that and just go to the Properties Inspector and not change it in my layers, but just change it for those two lines by clicking on the line type and saying, you will be continuous now. Okay, now I need to do these same dashes that are down here up top. And again, you can go follow the same procedures that I did right here, or we can use the mirror command and mirror those two things. From, you could use the center point even, going, and I'm moving over to the right, and you can see it's put the two dots up top. And I'm going to say yes by clicking, and then it's like, do you want to erase the original object? No. And now I need to do the same thing on the other side here. So line, enter, from the end, moving this direction right here, 1, and we'll go make that line the same length, 1.5, and click, grab, stretch, 1.5. Okay, I could at this point go change that line type to continuous, and now I'm going to copy that right here from this point going that direction. That didn't seem to work. CO, enter, yes, here, and move that direction. I want to go, what was it, 2? That's good, and now I want to, doesn't seem like I did 2 before, and I want to keep that consistent, so I'm just going to check my spacing right here, 1.5. So again, then the value 2 doesn't really matter, it's more the consistency. So I'm just going to move this one right here, this time that direction, 0.5, to keep it consistent with the other one. And now I can just mirror this thing again. So MI for mirror. What do you want to mirror? These two little pieces. Where's the mirror line? Right there. Move up, and you can see it places those on the far side. Press, click, and no. Okay, now I've got these dashes at the ends of these center lines, which is basically now indicating to us that they are lines of symmetry. So this one right here, though, is actually, there's two lines in the same position. There is a center line for the hole that's going all the way through and the line of symmetry, but the one that we want to take precedence is going to be the line of symmetry. Okay, just like right here, there would be two lines as well, a center line and an object line, but the object line takes precedence over the center line. So let's go back to our layout, and now you can see those little dashes right there, which tell us that this thing is symmetrical. So now I don't need to dimension all these other parts, because if they're dimensioned on this side, they're exactly the same on the other side. Okay, now the other option, if you don't put these lines of symmetry, is that you can just click on this and you can write TYP. Like that, meaning this dimension is 30 and it's typical, which means anything else that isn't dimensioned would be this same dimension. But the problem is sometimes when I'm trying to start fitting it into here, right, I'm going to end up with a TYP on this, and now, you know, it just doesn't fit in there properly. But it's still fine. It pulled it out with an extension line, but it's overlapping this one, which makes things a little bit confusing. So, you know, if I was going to do this one, I would sort of have to grab this and pull it down like that. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with this. Again, just for aesthetics, I'd probably try and line this one up, like with this one right here, like that. Looks a little bit better. But because I've got these lines of symmetry, I do not need to put the word TYP in there. Okay, so that looks good for the top view right there. Let's move down to the front view and we'll start adding some dimensions there. So again, make sure you're on the correct layer, and let's go select linear again. And I need to know how far this is from that point to there, and again moving up a distance of 10, and I'll take this dimension right here to here and line those up like so. And we already know we don't need to do that on the other side, and I don't need to include this dimension right here because it's already stated right there. Now, if possible, we try to put the dimensions in between the two drawings because they're sort of referencing each other. So, you know, this line right here that's over 15 is that line right there. Okay, and if I have this line 80 on the top here, it just makes me have to look a little bit harder to go find it. So if possible, if there's enough space, we try to keep the dimensions between the objects, but it's always not that possible. So same thing over here, because this is coming up and over, it's better to put the dimensions on this side of your drawing. Okay, so now let's add some other dimensions. I need to get the locations of these holes right here. Now what we have are 6 holes, and they are all sort of following a pattern, and they're all the same size. So again, I'm going to either have to use some type of line of symmetry or TYP, adding that text at the end, annotating it so that it's understood that they're all the same size. So let's go to a linear dimension to begin with, and I'm going to go from the center line. Now we can dimension from center lines. In fact, we want to, because that's where we want to know the center of the circle, not the outside edges of the circle. So I can dimension from a center line to this end point right here, and again pull down 10. Okay, and I would again go from the center line to that end point and pull out 10. Now really, these two right here, if they're both out 10, they should be lining up like that, which they do, so that's good. Okay, now I need to go between the center line and the center line right here, and again line these up. But you can see once I do that, that all of a sudden I get these arrows that end up overlapping the dimensions. So I'm just going to do the last one really quickly. From here to here, again, is going to be 15, and it just doesn't look good. Okay, so we have a couple different things that we can do. One, we can click on the dimension, hover over top of the little grip right there, and say move with the leader. Okay, so I'm going to move with the leader and basically set a distance right there. So that now is a 10 pointing down to that dimension. And I could do the same thing with this one, move with leader. And again, I'm going to come out, and I'm just going to line these two up like that. And last one, move with leader. And I'm going to move out that direction. I'm just using my crosshairs to sort of line those up. You know, I can see they're slightly off, so I could use some dimensioning or type in some numbers. I just want to see if that will actually work. So if we put it back to the way it was and click on here and hover, move with leader, if I move in that direction and type 10, okay, And then same this one, hover, move with leader, out that direction 10. And this one, move with leader, going out that direction 10. And that should line them up perfectly. Okay, so this way we keep them all chained, and that is fine, and it looks good. We don't have anything overlapping. It's the readability is a lot better. Okay, now we're going to have to indicate the size of this circle or this hole, and we use diameter for any holes, circles, and full complete circles, and we use radius for any filleted corners. So I'm going to hold down, choose diameter. I'm going to click on this circle and I'll pull that dimension out right there. So that looks not too bad like that. Okay. Now I'll probably just pull that out a little bit right here. Let's see what it allows me to do. Does it give me that move with dimension line? So it's giving me a bad angle on that. That doesn't look too bad. Looks good. Okay, now with this, again, because there's 6, what I do sometimes is I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say 6. Whoops, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to cancel out of there, escape. Save your changes, no. Okay, so I'm going to try that again. Click on this, and at the front of it, so it's making me, I want to type 6 and X, which means there's 6 of them, and I'm just going to use the arrows to move to the end and write TYP. Make sure you're all in uppercase, TYP. And save that, and now I'm saying there's 6 holes, all with a diameter of 10, and that is typical. So now I know that each one of these are the same. Okay, now what about the holes on the other side? Well, we know they all have the same diameter because of the 6X and TYP, but are the positions the same? Well, again, at the end of each one of these, now I could add a TYP, or again, I could create a line of symmetry down here. Okay, and I can add TYP to each one of those. And that doesn't look too bad, but again, I could just go back into my model space and create a line of symmetry. And that is what I'm going to do really quickly. So I'm just going to take those back and go into my model space. Now to do this, I want to use this line of symmetry right here. So I'm just going to copy this line of symmetry. Oops, CO. I'm going to choose not only the line of symmetry, but also the holes that are on the end of it right there. I'm going to grab it at that point and I'm going to drop it right down there. Okay, and now my line doesn't go all the way to the end, so I'm just going to click on that and drag it up. And then these 2 little dashes right here, I'm going to need to mirror again by finding a mirror point and mirroring those up. Okay, that is not a mirror point, so we're not going to do that. We'll try it again. MI, those 2 points, and this center point should be the mirror point right there. And that looks good. Now I can go back into my drawing. And now that I've got that line of symmetry right there, we know that any dimension on the other side is exactly the same as what we have on this side. Okay, now I just need to know, I guess, what's the depth of this shoulder that's right here. And although I've got all the dimensions on this side, I don't need to create the dimension right here, that would cause some overlapping. I could create it on the other side. It's okay to overlap your extension lines. You just don't want to overlap any of the text, the dimensions themselves, or the dimension line. So I'm on dimension. I will go and select the linear, and I can go from here to there and go out this direction, line it up with that point. That looks good right there, and now I know that everything on the other side is exactly the same. Okay, so now I need to figure out, well, what is the distance from to this sort of edge that's right here. Now I can see that that is already indicated up here at 30, but I do have this object that's in between right here. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my linear dimension. I'm going to go from this point right there to that point and come down from this point right there down 8, and that looks good. And now what is the width of this part? I can go from that point to that point and line those up so it has a width of 12. Okay, and what about the height of this point and the height of this rectangular hole and the spacing up top? Okay, well, again, I'm going to use my linear dimension. I'm going to go there to here. I don't want to go out this side because there's just too many dimensions over there. So I'm going to go again from, where am I going to go from? From the corner there, coming out 10. And now I'm going to get this dimension for showing the height of my object and just line those up like that. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Now I know my spacing in here should be 4 because up top it says it's 20, this is 12, and because it's symmetrical, I'm going to have equal spacing on either side. So that looks pretty good. So let's just look over at the right side drawing. One thing I don't have is the total height of this object, and again, I've got several options for it. I can put it on this side right over here. I can put it on this side right here, which puts it in between our two drawings, but it sort of gets pulled out really far to get past all this text. So my best location would be here and here. Again, coming out 10. That looks good. Do I need this dimension right here? And the answer is no, because it's already stated right there. And that looks complete. So essentially, if we've dimensioned properly, you should be able to recreate this drawing by using only these dimensions that are on this piece of paper. Okay, so one of the things we need to add to this drawing is going to be the third angle projection symbol. Now there are some standard dimensions that are used to create this, but really if you just have a symbol that looks like it, it's probably fine, but I will draw it with you right now showing you the standard dimensions. So I'm going to switch over to another layer. I'll select the notes layer. And we're just going to head up to the top right corner or the bottom right corner. Let's do the bottom right corner, and we're going to make a circle to begin with. So C, enter, and we're going to make that circle with a radius of 2.5. Okay, we're going to go back into the circle command and we'll make another circle now with a radius that is double that. So 5. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to create the other part of this, which is like a little sort of cone, cut off cone over here. And typically the distance from the center of the circle to the beginning of that is about 1.25 times the diameter. And if the radius of this was 5, that means the diameter is 10. If I multiply that one by 1.25, that's going to be 12.5. So I'm going to go like this, L, enter, and I'm going to say from where? From the center point. So I'm going to come from the center of that and just make sure I get that green line. I'm going to go over, like I said, 12.5. And I'm going to make a line up, and this is the short part of it, so it will have the same length as the diameter of that inner circle, which was 5. So I'm going to go up 2.5. And now I don't want to draw a second line down because then I'll have two objects. So I'm just going to rather hover over top of this, and I'm going to lengthen this line down 2.5. So now that line right there should be the same length as the diameter of this right here. Okay, now the distance between this end and the other end over here that will have the same diameter as this circle is going to be the length of the diameter. So basically what I want to do is take this circle, I'm going to offset it, the diameter, which is 10, and it goes in that direction. But this line now needs to be up 2.5 and down 2.5, and that is going to create a line that should go between this point and that point at 15 degrees. Okay, so I'm just going to choose that point and do it down here, right there. And there's my two symbols. The only thing I now need to do is add a center mark to the big circle and then stretch that out so it shows the line of symmetry moving forward into this other piece right here. So we'll go back over to dimension, choose center mark, select the big circle. Okay, and I'm going to click on this, grab that grip right there and slide it to the other end. That looks good. Okay, and the only thing I'm going to do now is change this scale. So I'll choose the same scale that I have on that. I got to go back to my model space just to see what I selected, a 4. So I'm going to choose the same scale right there. That looks good. Now I'll just reposition this. I could move it up into this notes section, or I didn't make a section on here, so it just needs to be on the drawing somewhere. I'm going to move this sort of down and over there like that. Okay, now I know that it is a drawing that is in third angle projection. Okay, and the last thing we need to do is add some annotation, which is some text to the drawing to give us some more important and relevant information. So even though this is in third angle projection as denoted by the symbol down here, and this should be set up as a front, right, and top view, we can add notes by again going to the notes layer. And we want to type T for text, and we're just going to add a little text box right here, and it should be defaulting to 3 mm. All of our text is in uppercase, and this is going to be a, sorry, I gotta click inside the box, top view. Okay, and you want to grab this little arrow right here and sort of stretch it so it's not too large. Okay, so now I can reposition this if necessary. So move this drawing, so we're going to go a little bit to the right just to line that up, and I'm just also going to go a little bit down right about there. And to put that on the bottom or the front view right here, I'm just going to use the copy command. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to bring that down to that point right there. Looks like a good spacing. Double click on it, and I can just type front view. Now notice that it got split up there because that word is a little bit longer. All I gotta do is just pull that little bar over a little bit, and again, if I want to center this up, I can use the move command to move that direction just ever so slightly. And now this is my front view, or sorry, my right side view right here. So again, I'm just going to use the copy command to grab that and bring it over to here and align that up with the center, and we will edit the text by double clicking on the inside and choosing right view. So now I've got my top view, front view, my right view, and all the other notes that we're going to add at this point are going to go inside the title block cells. The one up here that says notes, if there was a lot of notes, they would be added up into this section that's sort of open to the top right here. But for now, we're just going to add a few just for some practice. So what you want to do is double click on the title frame, and that's going to bring up our little attribute editor. And we can just click on each one of these different sections, and down in this value bar we can change the text that we want to be there. So this was at a scale of 5 to 4, so I'll change that. The sheet size was an A3. Now the date, we'll go ahead and put that in right now, so it's going to be 09/11/2021, just to follow that formatting. Drawn by, that's me, approved by me, checked by me. Now if we head up into, let's say, the project name, this project, we'll call it A to Z widgets. Okay, and the drawing name is going to be the left widget. Okay, so it's the drawing name is part of the drawing project. Okay, the sheet number, it depends on the order that you want it to be in. So let's say this was the 5th sheet in the series of the drawings that are making up this project. And the drawing number might be drawing number 4. Oops, change it down here. So it's drawing 4 and sheet number 5 of the left widget from the A to Z widgets project. Okay, other notes that we need to add in there are going to be the project number. Now again, this one might have some type of code. So for example, it could be like, right now it's November, so it might be like NOV dash, and it might be something like, this is a engineer drawing, so I'm going to put an E for engineering dash, maybe the year 2021, followed by, I don't know, the first 3 letters of the project name. So or whatever you end up putting in there, some type of ordering system, 0012536, whatever it happens to be. That would be set by the company. Okay, the company address. Now this one right here, notice we can't click in the values section, so you would click on the little 3 dots right here, which brings you into this box right here for the company address. And we're gonna type in Voikin's amazing designs, and hit enter and put in an address, my street, and that is going to be in it somewhere. And there is our address right there, and all we have to do is click in the box somewhere, and you can see that it has added it there. Now the text looks a little bit small for the size of box that I've given that, so I would want to end up changing that later. Client address, again, you're going to add a client address and a client name following sort of the same process. And we're just going to go to this notes section right now, which is up here, and we'll add a few notes. So start off with a little dash, and we'll get rid of that text right there, and we'll write all dimensions are in millimeters unless other, no, I don't want to start typing outside the box there, so unless enter, otherwise specified. Okay, if I wanted to line these notes up, I could go like that and create a sort of larger space between the dash. Get to the end, we'll press enter, space, dash, dash, a couple different spaces. All typical dimensions share the same. Again, if I want to get that space, same dimensions unless otherwise specified. And you can go through and add as many notes that are needed for this drawing, and when you're done you just want to press OK, and there is our completed drawing. Okay, so one last thing, we just need to get this ready for printing. So I've gone, as you can see, this is the finished drawing right here. It looks a little bit different than I left off with in the last section. I just went into my attribute editor here and changed some of the, went into, I actually forgot to put, there's my company address, but the company name, that's why the size was a little bit different there. But you can also select something and go in and start changing the options for the text or some of the properties and just tweak it, make it look presentable. Okay, now in order to print it, we want to make sure that some of the layers are not printable. So if we go into our properties inspector, you can see right here that I have two construction layers, and right here it says print no. Now if you don't have this little printer here, you just got to go in the bottom right corner to the display settings, go view options, and make sure that I just have them all turned on, but this one right here, plot, is turned on. That allows you to do that. So the viewport, we do not want to print the viewport. So again, I'm going to have a little no print symbol put right there. And I don't make any of my drawings on layer 0. So just in case, I would just turn that one off right there and place this back over to the side. And even if I wanted to, the viewport layer right here does not need to be visible, so I could just go in here and just turn that off. Now it's ready to print, and just use standard printing function by going up into File and Print.